Hello, everyone. This is Mayor Lionel Jordan. I'm bringing you a special issue of the Mayor's Corner today. Today, I have the honor and privilege to have what I would consider one of the finest public servants that we have, not only in this, that represents the state of Arkansas, represents the nation, probably one of the better leaders in the world, is Senator Mark Pryor from Arkansas.
Well,
and it is absolutely an honor and a privilege to have you here today. And I'm just going to turn you loose and let you talk to the people about what's going on in Washington, D.C., some of the stuff you're working on, what you see for the future.
Well, thank you. I'm very excited to be back in Fayetteville. Thank you for having me on this show. This is great. I'm glad y'all do this. This is a great way to keep the public informed. And I know you have a lot of great issues going on here in Fayetteville, and a lot of those are just because Fayetteville is such a great place to live and have a lot of economic growth here, and those are good problems to have. So we're really, really proud of everything you're doing in Fayetteville.
Oh, it's just wonderful to have you here. What's some of the ongoing issues that you see in Washington, D.C., and what's going on now? Where do you see us going as a nation?
You know, we have lots of different issues up there that need quite a bit of wisdom to deal with. One, of course, is the debt and deficit. And you know what? We've been living beyond our means for a long time. Both parties are to blame for that. And one of the things I think most people in Arkansas are tired of is the blame game. You know, in Washington, the deal is if you have a problem, let's have a press conference and blame the other guy for it. And you know, that gets old. People are tired of that. We need folks up there who are going to offer solutions. And I think we have a good workable framework on the debt and deficit. We have the Simpson-Bowles Debt Commission. And, you know, I don't agree with everything in there, but I think it basically provides the roadmap we need to follow. And my guess is if we set up 5 more commissions over the next 5 years, they'd all come back and say pretty much the same thing. And that is we need to reform our spending, and that includes spending less. We also need to reform entitlements. And it's not just Medicare and Social Security. We have lots of other entitlements. We need to put all those on the table, look at ways to make those sustainable, make it to where we can pay for those long term and still provide all the services. And I'm a huge advocate of saving Social Security and Medicare, but we have to be realistic about it. If you look at them, especially Medicare, is in financial trouble. I mean, it just is. And the third thing that we really have to do and have to be focused on is we have to reform the tax code. And that scares people to death when you say, hey, we need to put everything on the table for taxes, and we need to clean up our tax code, because there's a lot of special deals in there for special interests. And we have a tax code that is so riddled with exceptions and, you know, all this kind of stuff where people get unequal treatment in tax code. It's really hard to justify. I mean, you can look at a company like Walmart. They pay somewhere close to 30% in federal income tax. You look at a company like GE, they pay 0. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. You can't justify it when you really look at it. I think we ought to keep the mortgage deduction and the charitable deduction. But really, other than that, I think we ought to really look at everything and try to streamline the tax code, simplify it, make it to where you don't need a PhD to understand, you know, what the heck it's all about. But also, I think what Simpson-Bowles said is you can do all that and you can lower people's tax rates. And I think that'd be great. I think a lot of Americans, I think a lot of Arkansans would go with a much more simplified tax code if they had a lower rate in exchange. So we need to put all that on the table and try to get that done. Unfortunately, in Washington, there's not enough willpower to get that done. And it's this presidential election. People are afraid that if they step out there and try to actually do some reform, then somebody's going to be right there sawing the limb off behind them. And they will, and that's the way Washington works. And I don't like it. I wish it weren't this way, but we're probably going to have to put these hard decisions off till after the election. But then the problem is then you're in a new election cycle, and it all starts over again. So from my standpoint, we need some political courage. And I guess the good news for the folks out there watching is that there's nothing wrong with Washington that we can't fix. We can fix everything. I mean, everything up there can be fixed. It's just a matter of political will. And if we have enough will, we'll get it fixed.
Yeah, if reasonable people sit down at the table and work together, you can change anything.
Well, you know how it is on the local level. I mean, you see it every day. The school board sees it. The state legislature sees it. You know, our governor sees it. I mean, that's right. But for some reason, they think when you go to Washington, if you can be more divided and more adversarial, somehow that's better. Doesn't make any sense. An organization can't function the way things are going in Washington right now.
I'm very interested in transportation. And what
As
are
you
some,
should be, because y'all have a lot of needs here in this county.
so what are some of the things that we can be looking at as far as transportation? I'm really interested in alternative transportation and things of that nature. What do you?
Well, the Senate has passed a transportation bill, and I wish it was a 4, 5, 6-year bill, but it's a 2-year bill, and that's all we could do. It doesn't have new taxes in it. It doesn't raise a lot of revenue, but what it does is it keeps things going for the next couple of years. We are waiting on the House to pass that. They didn't want to pass that, so they sent us over a 2 or 3 month extension on where we are now. And we do not need to get into the extension business on transportation. We need to just give some certainty because, as you know, because you're in this world, when you're fixing highways or streets or whatever, you have a bidding process. You need to bid that out. That takes time. It takes time to actually get the construction done. If people aren't sure we're going to have money in 3 months, and they're not going to do it, and they shouldn't do it. And the House, in my view, is not doing anybody a favor by just giving a 3-month extension or 2-month extension. Let's do it for 2 years, and then let's work on a real highway bill over the next year or so. So transportation is critically important. I'm a big believer in investing in infrastructure, even though we're in a difficult budget, and I'll be the first to recognize that. But when you invest in infrastructure, not only are you putting a lot of people to work today, and that doesn't last forever, but you definitely put people to work as you're doing the building, but also what you're doing is you're investing in the future. And you know how it is in this city with the population growth and all that, your infrastructure, whether it's streets or water and sewer or whatever it is, you know how it is.
I do.
It's huge, and the city can't grow and really maintain what you want to maintain unless you have that commitment to infrastructure, and that's the way the nation is as well. We have to be building highways. We have to be making sure our riverways are working, our railway system's working, our airports. You have a great airport here at XNA. So we have to make sure all that's working, and then your smaller, like your general aviation airports, like Drake Field and go up to Rogers and a few places like that. All that needs to work, but also we cannot forget that rural broadband, high-speed internet access for rural America is critically important. So in the city of Fayetteville, you're good on that. You don't need a lot of help there. But out in the county, you have a lot of places in Washington County and all kinds of places around Arkansas that just don't have access to that high-speed internet, and that cripples them. That limits them in their ability to be part of the global economy. So I want to help any way I can on your infrastructure here, if it's roads and if that's what your big needs are. And I've tried to help over the years. I didn't bring my list about how much we've been able to help. Some of that's earmarks, by the way, and we cannot earmark right now. But the way I look at earmarks is that's our ability to reinvest your tax dollars right back here in your community, and that's really what that is. And my concern with no earmarks is if the city of Fayetteville is wanting to do some construction around here and you're competing with Miami or San Francisco or New York City, guess who's going to win that? It ain't going to be city of Fayetteville. It's going to be these other bigger urban areas, and that's just the way it works in Washington. I don't like it, but if you look at the numbers, that's the way it works. So the earmarks really do help rural America and help. We've been able to help Arkansas quite a bit, and I think that there have been a lot of problems with earmarks in the past in the Congress. I mean, it's kind of embarrassing, actually, some of it. But the Senate a few years ago did earmark reform. So we did things like where we have to post them on our website. You have to identify who requested the earmark. In fact, under the Senate rules, you not only have to identify the earmarks you got, you have to identify everything you asked for, even the stuff you didn't get. I think that's good. I think that's healthy. I think that transparency is good, and they have to be posted on a searchable website 48 hours before we ever vote on it. So it gives people plenty of time to look at what we have. No more so-called midnight ads. And that's true. That really did happen in the past, where you had no idea what was in the bill because the bill would come to the floor and you had no idea they'd been in there cooking on it all night long, and you didn't know it was in there. That stopped, and we stopped that in the Senate.
Well, what about jobs? I know. And the reason I'm asking these questions, I'm on the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and I sit on 3 national committees, and their top priorities is transportation and building the infrastructure back again. And it's sort of like Tom Friedman's book, That Used to Be Us.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a great
Yeah.
book.
Yeah.
And so when I was reading it was a real good fit when I sit on these committees with
Yeah.
the U.S. Conference of Mayors. And there's three top priorities is jobs and building the infrastructure again, education, water conservation.
Right.
We were told, and let's look at jobs right now, job creation. What's going on in D.C. on that?
Well, you would think that jobs would be the one thing that we could all agree on in Washington, and even that has gotten partisan. And I don't like this; it's just the way it is. But even that has gotten political and partisan. And if the president has an idea, then the Republicans block it, or if the Republicans have an idea, then the Democrats don't want to give them a win on this. I mean, we have to stop that. That's not good government. It's not governing. It's not leadership. We did pass a bill not long ago called the Jobs Bill. It's called Jumpstart Our Business Startups, which is not truly a jobs bill. Like there won't be as many jobs created there as there will be the transportation bill, for example. But I actually supported the so-called Jobs Act because we need to jumpstart businesses. And I have several pieces of legislation. In fact, one of my bills was actually included in this one that we passed last week, and I think the president's going to sign it any day now, and I'm glad he is. But we have to let the private sector lead. We need to get out of this business where the government does everything. Mm-hmm. We can't afford to do that, and also, quite honestly, when you do that, that tends to be more of a short-term fix, not a real long-term fix. So we need to let entrepreneurs and startups and even big companies, we need to let them get out there and produce, but we need to let the private sector do it. And there's lots of different ways we can do that. And I have several bills. I have a set of 18 bills. We don't have time to go through them all today, but I have a set of 18 bills that we call the 6-point solution because they focus in 6 different areas. And, I would hope that we'll be able to get a lot of that passed this year. We've already have some of it passed, but I think some of it's gaining steam right now. So I'm hoping we get most of that passed. And really the goal there is to be bipartisan and let the private sector lead and not spend a lot of money. So I think we can get there. And, we're going to continue to work. But I would love to see more, real jobs, not marketing ideas, but real jobs, legislation come out of the Senate, come out of the House, and hopefully this year we could have a productive year on that.
Do you think we've turned a corner on the economy? I mean, do you see? We're seeing an uptick. I know here locally.
I hear that all over the place. I'm glad to hear you say that because I've been in other parts of the state and they're saying that, and I've talked to other sectors like banks that they're telling me they're feeling that around the state. Realtors, I talked to one of them yesterday. Had a good visit. So that's encouraging. That's very encouraging. I hope we've turned a corner. I think gas prices still, obviously, something's going to be a big factor for people. And also the housing and the jobs numbers. Those are the numbers that I think everybody's watching. But overall, I think you are seeing a lot of good things happen in the economy. A lot of good news.
On the education front, what do you see as far as, I'm big on education and secondary education where people can learn different trades and things like that. Where are we on that?
Well, I would hope that we could get an education bill passed this year in the Senate. 1 week I hear we're going to, the next week I hear we're not. So it's hard to know exactly on the sort of the K through 12 with No Child Left Behind. We need to revamp that and update that and probably get rid of some of it that didn't work very well and build on the things that did work. So we need to do that. We really do. That would help Fayetteville High School. It'd help, every school in Arkansas and every school in America. So we need to do that. I hope we can do that this year. But we also need to remember that in this global economy, post-high school is critical.
Absolutely.
And whether it's 2-year or 4-year or postgraduate or
Trade
medical degrees or whatever it is, man,
yeah.
It's critical.
Yep.
And we are so fortunate in this state to have a great system of 2-year colleges. And one of the things I love about our 2-year colleges here in Arkansas is I think we've been very smart. And I don't want to take credit for this because this has been mostly a state thing, but what they've done on the state level is they've really connected the 2-year colleges to the jobs needs
Right.
in that community, and that's huge.
Yeah, it is.
And it's great to have a 4-year college. Everybody loves that. I mean, that's great. It's just not for everybody. The fact that you can get a 2-year college and really connect it in with the jobs needs is great. So I want to actually take that. That's one of my points on the 6-point solution. I want to actually take the Arkansas model and go national because it works here. And I'm going to tell you, I talk to businesses, manufacturers, whatever, all over the country, and they love being in Arkansas because they can get the training done, you know, usually not always, but usually at the local 2-year college. It's great. It's a win-win for everybody.
You know, and I agree with that. I think a lot of folks, maybe they don't want to go to a 4-year college. Maybe they want to learn a specific trade, be a carpenter, a plumber, or electrician, or a computer programmer.
Right.
But I think everybody, we're in a stage in the United States, in the world, because we're all becoming hyper connected. Wouldn't you think that?
Absolutely.
So we've got to have that type of training for these skills of the future. Is kind of what.
Oh, it's absolutely true. And again, not to take anything away from the 4-year colleges, because they're great and they need to, you know, pump out really well qualified, hardworking graduates as well. But the 2-year is something actually President Obama mentioned in his State of the Union address. I was glad he did, because I think a lot of times people overlook the 2-year schools, but we have a great system in the state of Arkansas. And you know, sometimes people think of post-high school, they just think of the 4-year universities, and we have those all over the state, and they're wonderful. But the 2 years also are a very important part of that. And like you said, for a lot of people, it could just be a, you know, kind of how they're wired. They'd rather go a 2-year route, and like you said, be a skilled laborer of some sort, like a carpenter or plumber, you know, electrician, whatever, and all that's great. And sometimes it's just basic economic needs. They just can't take 4 years out of their lives. They have a family. Or maybe they're doing this at night, and they can't go off to some 4-year school. They can't afford it. They just don't have the means to do it. They've got family issues, you know. So it's just a great option for a lot of people.
I know that you're on the small business committee. Is that true? And I would certainly like to hear what y'all are doing on getting small business startups. And
you know, if you look at small businesses, if you look at the economy, the U.S. economy, where jobs are created, it's at the small business level. It's really not the Fortune 500. If you look at the numbers, they really don't create that many jobs. We love having them, right? We have them right here all around us. We love it. It's great. But real job creation comes from small business level. And I've been in Fayetteville this week and been looking at some of the things y'all have going on here with the iceberg.
Right.
I mean, that is so good.
Right.
You know, you get all these entrepreneurs under one roof, and it's this. To me, it's kind of an unorthodox approach, but it's brilliant. I don't know who came up with it or how y'all decided to do it, but I'm so glad y'all are doing that, to bring all these people together, give them a place to work, give them a place to interact, and sort of have some downtime, but also some time with other like-minded people. I mean, I tell you, nothing but good's going to come out of there. That's going to be great. And then you have the technology park down in the south end of town, more or less. You know, that's great. Now they have this new startup called ARC that they're trying to do. All that's good. I mean, all that is for small businesses, help people get going, give them a few tools or give them a few resources to help them do whatever they're doing. I met a young man earlier today, and all he does is make skateboards.
Right.
You know, and
Great example.
It's an internet business, and he takes recycled wood. Basically, I don't know where he gets it all, but he takes recycled wood, and he cuts it up, and he does this thing with it, and he creates these skateboards, and it's great. And he told me how many hundreds he sells a month now, but it's he and a couple other guys right now. But it's a great business. But you know, he had the same problem that so many startups have, and that is couldn't get financing.
Right.
You know, he'd go to a local lender, and they just, you're going to do what? You're going to sell it how? You know, that it didn't quite fit their model. But that's the thing. We need to make sure that these folks who are so innovative, that they have access to financing. Because for many of them, if they can just get that little financial assistance on the beginning, they can take off. And so again, not to keep going back to the 6-point solution, but we have some things to try to help folks like that. Some what we call small business savings account, where if they save their money and put it into what is kind of like a 401k, when they pull it out, they're not taxed on it. So it gives them a way to save their money tax-free, so it's great.
Yeah.
And then also we have the Angel Investor Act, which is basically for these companies who are ready to go to the next level, and they need that angel investor, those people who can come in and really make something go. In fact, J.B. Hunt is a great example of this. J.B. Hunt, way back when in the early 60s, he had a few what they call angel investors that came in when he basically had a couple of trucks and an idea, and he took that money, he got going, someone believed in him, gave him a chance, and look what they've done today with that company.
The rest is history.
That's right. So that's what the Angel Investor Act is about, is to try to encourage people to take a risk on these people, and give them a chance to go out there. And what we do is we give them a little bit of a tax credit to invest in these type startups. So we're hoping it works.
It will work. We'll make it work, won't we?
I think so. I think you can look at Northwest Arkansas and know it'll work.
Absolutely. Well, Senator, is there anything you'd just like to tell the people as we sort of close out the show today?
No, but I tell you, I really appreciate you having me on. It's always great for me to be back in Fayetteville, and you know this, and I've known this guy for a long time, but I was born up here.
I know.
My mother's from up here.
I know.
And my grandparents for decades lived at 503 Assembly Drive, right there at the top of Maple and the corner of Maple and Assembly. And I went to the University of Arkansas undergrad and law school, so this is just kind of in my bones here. And it's always great to be in Fayetteville specifically, but also always great to be in Northwest Arkansas. And it's just amazing in my lifetime to see how much growth and how much change there's been here. And it's just great. It gives you just a lot of encouragement about our country, because, when I was a little kid, outside, like in Springdale, you had the AQ Chicken House, and that was about it, and here, of course, you had the university and a few other things, but no one ever went to Benton County for anything. I mean, what in the world do they have up there? But it has just been a phenomenal run that you've had in Northwest Arkansas, and I'm glad you're part of it, and I'm glad everything keeps going in the right direction here.
Okay. Well, folks, I want to tell you something about Senator Pryor that I know. Every time I go to Washington, D.C., he always takes time to visit with me. His door is always open, and I'm sure his door will be open to you anytime you want to go to D.C. and see him, or when he comes here. He's very open. He's just epitomizes a great public servant to me. So it's been wonderful, Senator, having you on the show, and we'll have you back again sometime.
Let's do it. I'd love to.
So,
thank you.
You all have a great day. Until I see you again, have a great day and take care.